Hiring and managing employees is difficult for any business. Good files won't solve every problem, but such files will help. This presentation provides an outline of documents that should be in an employee file. Why are employee files important? Well, the first thing is they'll provide you protection if you're audited by a governmental entity. Certain governmental entities require certain documents to be contained in an employee file, and they can ask a company for those documents. If the company can't readily access those documents, it could face liability. Second, not every employee that you hire will work out precisely the way that you want them to. There will be issues. If you have good employee files, then those documents contained therein will help you resolve these issues. And the third and final reason why you want to have a good employee file is frequently if you are looking for money as an investment or you're selling the business, the entity that is purchasing the business or putting money into the business will want to look at the employee's files in terms of due diligence. If the employee files are not complete or if they are lacking in any way, there's a potential for a significant reduction in price or investment. Documents that should be in an employee file. Well, the hiring documents, what you use to hire an employee. And the first two documents are an application and a resume. There's no statutory requirement that these documents be present in an employee file, but both are helpful. The second document, which is extremely important, is an offer letter. This letter provides three things. First, it states what the job is, what the employment requirements are. Second, it states what the compensation will be. And third, and most important, it will state that the employment is at will. What at will means is that it can be terminated by the employee or the employer at any time for any reason. The fourth document that should be in there is a confidential information and invention assignment agreement. This agreement does a few things. It'll protect the company's confidential information. It'll protect the company's client's confidential information. And it'll make sure that work done by the employee during his employment is assigned to and belongs to and is owned by the company. The next document is a handbook acknowledgement. This basically says that the employee received and reviewed the employee handbook. An employee handbook is a long document that's beyond the scope of this presentation, but it basically describes what the employee's responsibilities are, what the employer is, and what the employer is going to provide. The two final documents that are frequently in an employee file are background checks and drug tests. These again are not statutorily required, but if you're doing any kind of confidential information, you may want to consider doing both of these. Is performance records. These records are hard to maintain. Frequently, companies neglect performance records because they are hard and they require difficult discussions. The first thing that you might want to consider putting in performance record part of the employee file is self-evaluations. These can be annual, semi-annual, or even quarterly documents that the company provides to the employee and asks the employee to evaluate their own performance. This can then provide a discussion platform so that the company can evaluate the employee's performance. Evaluations of employee performance are very important because these can provide a basis on which a termination can be provided down the road. It's also important that if warranted, an employee is written up, that he receives a disciplinary warning if there are problems with either his performance or something that he's doing in the employment situation. Finally, companies frequently provide employees who are not performing in accordance with their standards a personal improvement plan. This would be a plan that would outline what the employee needs to do to rise to the standards of the employer. The next set of documents would be training records. Sometimes employees need to have a certain certification in order to perform the task that they are requested to perform. These certifications should be maintained in the employee file. Next, frequently, it's a good idea to have a training checklist or acknowledgement that, hey, yes, I understand all these things that the company is expecting of me, and I know what to do. The next one is safety training. If there is any dangerous thing that your employee is going to do, it's a good idea to have a documented program for safety. But importantly, there is if one of your employee harasses another one of your employees, the company is at risk of being sued. Even if you had nothing to do with the harassment, even if the harassment is not from a supervisor, the company still is potentially liable for that harassment. How do you protect yourself against that? Well, the best way to do it is to have a training program that's documented. And ideally, in the employee file, the employee would acknowledge that he has received this training, and the training would be maintained in there. Forms. There's immigration forms, I-9s. These should be maintained in the employee file with copies of identification documents that were the basis of the I-9. The IRS W-4 form should also be maintained in the employee file. And finally, any wage garnishment documents should be in the employee file as well. Now, one of very important to realize is that employee files contain confidential information. The information contained in the I-9s, the investigations that a company may do with respect to an employment problem, background checks that are done, drug tests that are done, Social Security numbers located on W-4s and on other documents are confidential. Medical records, birth, marital status, religious affiliations, and any requests for leaves of absences all are confidential. This requires two things. Number one, the employee file should be maintained in a locked cabinet, not generally accessible by all the employees of the company. They should only be accessible by those people who need to access them to perform their duties. Secondly, if they do need to be disclosed, you should disclose them under cover of a non-disclosure agreement. If you have any questions about employee files or employee document, visit the Montgomery Law Firm. Thank you.